NICOLO FERRETI is a student at the prestigious Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. He worked hard in order to get in, but because of Georgetown's prominent reputation, he's also paying a lot of money.
It's very expensive. Most students, the tuition is around $78,000 a year right now.
In order to cover the cost, his parents began planning and saving years ago.
I'm very fortunate. My parents really believe in education and making sure that me and my brother have a great college education, and they supported me throughout my journey to Georgetown, making sure that I was able to pay for it.
They created like a college account for me where they put money and saved it up for years. It started about 10 years before I was born. If they hadn't done that, we would have had to take out loans for sure.
The 20-year-old believes the cost of tuition makes sense thanks to the quality of teaching and the promise of a comfortable salary after graduation.
If I thought it was unfair to charge people this amount, then I wouldn't have come. I think for this level of education, the tuition is fair. Georgetown does do a great job in getting people ready to go onto the job market and get some pretty high-paying jobs. And I think even when tuition is definitely still a burden, I think the average income of somebody graduating from my school is around $55,000 a year.
But many Americans disagree. Last year, 69% of students took out loans to pay for college, and many young graduates are having trouble finding a job that fits their degree and their level of education. AMARI LINTON is among those disappointed with the system. She graduated from a private university in Chicago. College cost her $100,000, which she was able to pay thanks to a federal aid program. Her current debt sits at $34,000. So right now, every cent counts.
$6 for corn. Online you can get like 2 for $6. Yeah, this doesn't seem worth it.
AMARI found a job in the pharmaceutical industry shortly after graduating. Each month, 1/3 of her salary goes to paying back her student loans. Her finances are an endless struggle.
Constantly trying to see where it's at, but still having that, anxiety of actually looking at your account and seeing that it's getting lower. Yeah, and it's just like everyday expenses, paying off as much debt as possible.
In order to reduce costs, AMARI shares an apartment in Brooklyn. She's also had to cut down on as many expenses as possible.
I don't do anything. I can't afford to do anything. Even as far as taking a vacation, going to see my family in St. Louis, that's a really big decision for me. It's a splurge, and the tickets are about $300 round trip. And for a person who's making the amount I'm making, it shouldn't feel like a splurge.
At just 25, she feels trapped by her financial situation.
There's this idea that you have to go to school, and when you go to school, you're going to get this better career, and you're going to be set up for something great. And then you spend the rest of your life paying for it. It's just well, then where does life start?
As of last summer, the total U.S. student debt was more than $1.5 trillion. So why do universities keep increasing their tuition fees? This researcher at the Center for American Progress says there is no incentive to cap them.
Georgetown universities, your Harvards, et cetera. Part of the reason why the price is going up there is because there's no reason for you to try to keep the price in line, because you know that if you reject that person because they can't afford to pay, someone else will show up.
Higher education has become a factor of division in American society. Ben Miller says the situation is not viable in the long run.
In theory, higher education should be this powerful tool to help a low-income student who goes access a middle-class lifestyle. But what we're seeing is as the price rises, we make those individuals borrow more and more. We also do a bad job in terms of where we send them to school. We recreate a lot of the same problems with inequality in the public school system at the K-12 level in our higher education level as well. The rich go to the fanciest, most expensive places, and the lower income students do not.
Another consequence is a drop in spending power. Harrison Beecher is a real estate agent in D.C. He's seen a lot of changes over the past 5 years.
If you have a big chunk of your monthly income going towards student debt, that's going to make what you can afford in terms of mortgage even smaller. And as I said before, with prices higher but affordability being constricted, that's the biggest tension, is that when people, especially if they have a secondary degree,
The ability to buy homes has dropped significantly among young graduates. They're now having to move out of cities. Garvey, who's 31, also graduated from Georgetown.
It's the house, I think.
He just bought his new home, some 12 kilometers from downtown D.C.
Fortunately, was able to pay off my student loans, which actually really opened the door for me to be able to invest in a home. You know, I think a lot of my peers in my age group are unable to purchase their first home because they are focused on reducing debt. So it's actually a huge burden for an entire generation.
Student loans have become the second highest source of debt in the United States. Each year, more than 1 million Americans go bankrupt. Experts say that number may hit 15 million by 2023.